We often think of cracked heels as a small cosmetic flaw, something to hide with socks or quick creams. But what if those tiny fissures are actually quiet messages from the body, whispers from the edge of our physiology where weight, skin, circulation, and daily life all meet? Because the heel is not just skin, it is a living interface between the body and the ground, absorbing pressure, adapting to movement, and revealing how well we care for ourselves at the most fundamental level. The story of cracked heels begins at the microscopic level, within the architecture of the skin itself, where protection and flexibility must exist in perfect balance. The skin on the heel is designed to be thicker than almost anywhere else on the body, a biological adaptation that allows it to withstand constant pressure, friction, and the repeated impact of standing and walking. This thickness, however, comes at a cost. The outermost layer of the skin relies on a delicate mixture of water and natural lipids to remain supple, and when this balance is disturbed, the very structure meant to protect us begins to fail. As moisture content drops, skin cells lose their ability to glide smoothly over one another, becoming rigid and tightly bound, less like living tissue and more like a hardened shell. Under normal conditions, healthy heel skin stretches and recoils with each step, distributing force evenly across its surface. But when dehydration sets in, elasticity disappears. The skin no longer bends, it resists. With every movement, invisible stress lines form, concentrating pressure in the weakest areas. Over time, these stress lines deepen, turning microscopic separations between skin cells into visible fissures. The process is gradual and often painless at first, which is why it is so easily ignored. Yet biologically, it is a clear sign that the skin's natural renewal cycle has slowed and its barrier function has weakened. This transformation mirrors patterns seen throughout nature, where materials that lose internal moisture become brittle and prone to fracture. The heel, bearing the full weight of the body, becomes the stage where this process plays out most dramatically. Cracked heels, then, are not sudden injuries, but the final expression of long-term imbalance within the skin, a reminder that even the toughest parts of the human body depend on softness, hydration, and subtle internal harmony to remain whole. Hydration, when it comes to the skin of the heels, is far more complex than the simple act of drinking enough water, because moisture must not only reach the skin but also be held there in a stable and functional form. The outer layer of heel skin depends on natural oils and microscopic structures that trap water and prevent it from evaporating too quickly. When these protective elements are stripped away, the skin may appear dry on the surface while quietly losing its internal resilience. Environmental exposure plays a powerful role in this process. Dry climates, air-conditioned rooms, and prolonged contact with dust and heat slowly pull moisture from the skin, leaving it less capable of adapting to movement and pressure. Daily habits often accelerate this loss without us realizing it. Frequent washing of the feet with strong soaps or hot water dissolves the skin's lipid barrier, removing the very substances meant to lock hydration in place. Walking barefoot on hard floors or rough surfaces further disrupts the skin's outer layers, creating tiny breaks that allow moisture to escape even faster. Over time, the heel skin becomes trapped in a cycle where dryness leads to thickening, and thickening makes it even harder for moisture to penetrate. What begins as mild roughness gradually turns into stiffness, and stiffness sets the stage for cracking. The body, however, does not abandon the skin easily. In response to chronic dryness, it attempts to compensate by producing more layers of protective cells, building thickness instead of flexibility. This adaptation works briefly, but eventually the lack of proper hydration undermines the structure from within. The skin loses its ability to stretch under weight and motion, and instead of flowing with movement, it resists it. The result is a surface that appears strong but behaves like dry ground under pressure, splitting where it can no longer adapt, revealing how hydration is not merely about water, but about preservation, balance, and respect for the skin's natural defenses. Mechanical stress is one of the most underestimated forces acting on the human body, and nowhere is it more quietly destructive than at the heel, where physics and biology intersect with every step we take. The heel is engineered to bear body weight through a natural fat pad that cushions impact and spreads pressure outward, but this system depends on harmony between internal support and external skin flexibility. When a person stands for long hours, walks extensively on hard surfaces, or wears footwear that fails to absorb shock, The pressure passing through the heel increases far beyond what the skin was designed to tolerate. Thin soles, open-backed sandals, and poorly fitted shoes allow the heel to expand laterally with each step, pushing the skin outward again and again. This outward force may seem subtle, but over thousands of steps, it becomes relentless. If the skin were elastic and well hydrated, it would stretch and return smoothly, dissipating stress without damage. But when elasticity is compromised, the skin resists expansion, and resistance concentrates force at the edges of the heel. These edges become zones of tension where the skin is repeatedly pulled apart at a microscopic level. Over time, the fat pad beneath the heel begins to flatten and shift, reducing its shock-absorbing ability and transferring even more mechanical load directly to the skin. Body weight further amplifies this process, not as a flaw, but as a matter of physics. Increased load means increased pressure, and pressure without flexibility leads to failure. The skin responds by thickening, attempting to shield itself, but thickness without suppleness becomes a liability. Instead of protecting, it fractures. Cracked heels are therefore not simply dry skin splitting at random, but a predictable response to repeated mechanical strain applied to tissue that can no longer stretch, a quiet reminder that movement, footwear, and daily physical demands shape the health of our skin just as surely as nutrition or hydration. Cracked heels often tell a story that extends far beyond the surface, reflecting subtle signals from deeper physiological systems that we may overlook in daily life. The skin of the heel does not exist in isolation. It is nourished, repaired, and maintained by blood flow, cellular regeneration, and metabolic balance. When circulation is reduced, whether due to aging, sedentary habits, or underlying cardiovascular conditions, nutrients and oxygen arrive more slowly to the tissues that need them most, and waste products linger longer, subtly weakening the skin structure. Over time, this diminished support compromises the skin's resilience, leaving it more susceptible to splitting under routine pressure. Beyond circulation, the skin's renewal cycle is intimately tied to internal metabolic processes. In younger, healthy tissue, cells turn over efficiently, replacing damaged or dead skin with new layers that maintain elasticity and strength. But conditions such as diabetes, thyroid imbalances, or nutritional deficiencies can slow this regeneration, creating a lag between the stress imposed on the heel and the body's ability to repair the resulting microdamage. Vitamins, minerals, and proteins play a critical role here. Without them, the skin lacks the biochemical tools to remain supple and responsive. Even the act of aging itself subtly alters the heel's physiology. Collagen and elastin fibers, which provide stretch and recoil, diminish gradually, and natural oil production declines, reducing both elasticity and hydration simultaneously. In this context, a fissure in the heel is not merely a cosmetic flaw but a reflection of a larger conversation between the surface and the interior, where the body signals that its peripheral systems are under strain. Cracks become markers of systemic realities: the quiet slowing of cellular repair, the shifting efficiency of circulation, and the intricate interdependence of nutrients, enzymes, and structural proteins, all converging in a tissue that must carry the entire weight of our lives every day. Neglect, in the context of cracked heels, is not a moral failing but a biological consequence of inattention, a demonstration of how even the smallest areas of the body respond to care or the lack of it. The heels occupy a peripheral position, both physically and in our consciousness, and as a result, they often receive the least consistent attention in daily hygiene and self-care routines. When we overlook moisturizing, exfoliating, or protecting the skin, the natural processes that maintain suppleness and integrity begin to falter, and the consequences are gradual but inevitable. Small fissures form first at points of highest stress, where weight and friction concentrate, and they deepen silently over time, a visual record of repeated inattention. Beyond the physical acts of care, neglect can also be understood in terms of lifestyle rhythms. Long hours spent standing or walking without adequate support, footwear that fails to distribute pressure evenly, and routines that prioritize convenience over the physiological needs of the skin all accumulate into a stress burden the heels must bear alone. Unlike internal organs, which often benefit from systemic protective mechanisms, the heels rely on a combination of external care and natural resilience, and when one is missing, the other cannot fully compensate. Neglect also intersects with awareness. Cracked heels are rarely painful at first, and the absence of immediate discomfort allows minor damage to progress unchecked. The skin signals distress through texture, fissures, and thickening, but these messages are subtle, easily dismissed, until they become pronounced enough to interfere with movement or cause discomfort. In this sense, neglect is revealed not only as omission but as a failure to notice the body's quiet communications. The heels, in their steadfast role of supporting the body, teach a lesson about the relationship between attention and health, demonstrating that even the smallest, most overlooked parts require consistent care, patience, and a recognition that overall well-being is built as much in the peripheral and unseen as in the central and obvious.